Welcome back to The Regulated Life. I'm Erica, and today we're getting into something that might make some of you uncomfortable because it's going to expose a leak you didn't know you had. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. I want you to think about something. Really sit with this for a second. You can close a $500,000 deal at 2 p.m. You can manage a team of 20 people with competing priorities and egos and deadlines and still keep the ship pointing in the right direction. You can navigate office politics like a chess grandmaster. 3 moves ahead, emotionally composed, strategically brilliant. But at 7 p.m., a sink full of dirty dishes sends you into a spiral that ruins your entire evening. A tone, a sigh, a look on your partner's face that you've seen 1,000 times, and something inside you snaps, or shuts down, or goes cold. And the person who was the leader 4 hours ago is now either screaming about the dishwasher or sitting in dead silence on the couch, doom scrolling on their phone while their partner stews in the next room. Why? Why does the most competent person in the boardroom become the most reactive person in the kitchen? Here's what I want you to hear. And I mean really hear. Because this is the thing that nobody in the productivity space is telling you. It's not because you're a hypocrite. It's not because you don't care enough. It's not because your relationship is too far gone, or because you married the wrong person, or because you're fundamentally bad at love. It's because your executive function, the part of your brain that makes brilliant decisions all day long, has a leaky bucket, and your relationship is the drain. Today, I'm going to show you exactly where the leak is, what it's costing you in real dollars, real health outcomes, and real years of your life, and how to start plugging it using the biosanctuary protocol. This one's going to go deep, so settle in. Let's go. Let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain chemistry, because this isn't a metaphor. This is measurable biology, and once you understand it, every frustrating evening of your life starts to make sense. Your prefrontal cortex, that's the CEO of your brain. It's the part responsible for strategic thinking, impulse control, emotional regulation, empathy, creative problem solving, and the ability to hold 2 competing ideas at the same time without your head exploding. It's the reason you're good at your job. It's the reason you can sit in a meeting where someone says something that makes your blood boil, and instead of flipping the table, you take a breath and respond with something measured and strategic. But here's what most people don't know. Your prefrontal cortex runs on a finite supply. It's not a bottomless well. It consumes glucose and neurotransmitter capacity at a measurable rate. And every decision, every negotiation, every "can I have a minute" from a coworker takes a scoop out of that supply. Think of it as a bucket of water. You wake up in the morning with a full bucket, or at least you're supposed to. And throughout the day, scoop by scoop, it drains. The alarm goes off, scoop. You decide what to wear, scoop. Traffic, scoop. The email from your boss that should have been a text, scoop. The team meeting where you had to be on for 90 minutes, a big scoop. The performance review you had to deliver with compassion and directness at the same time, another big scoop. The client who changed the scope for the 3rd time, scoop, scoop, scoop. By 5 or 6 p.m., that bucket is low. And that's normal. That's called decision fatigue. And it happens to every human being on the planet, regardless of intelligence or willpower or how many supplements you take. Your prefrontal cortex has a daily budget. By evening, the budget is spent. Now, this is where the leak comes in. And this is where most people's understanding stops. So pay attention. If your home environment is regulated, if you walk through the door and your nervous system receives signals of safety, your body initiates a recovery process. Cortisol starts to drop, parasympathetic activity increases, your vagus nerve shifts out of mission mode and into restoration mode. Your sleep that night is deeper, more restorative, and your prefrontal cortex wakes up the next morning with a full bucket again. That's how it's supposed to work. That's the design. But if your home environment is dysregulated, if there's unresolved tension hanging in the air, if your partner is activated, if the vibe of your house feels like walking onto a second battlefield, your nervous system doesn't get the signal to stand down. It stays in sympathetic overdrive. Not because you're choosing to be stressed, because your neuroception, that below conscious threat scanner we talked about on Sunday, is picking up danger signals from the shared space and keeping your system armed. And that cortisol that's been building all day, it doesn't dissipate. It stays elevated through dinner, through the argument about who forgot to call the electrician, through the tense silence on the couch, through the night. And here's what chronic sustained cortisol does to your brain. And I need you to hear this because this is not theoretical. This is established neuroscience. Chronic cortisol exposure literally shrinks the prefrontal cortex over time. The neurons in your CEO brain, the ones responsible for everything that makes you exceptional, begin to atrophy. Dendrites retract. Neural connections weaken. The very hardware that makes you a great leader, a great thinker, a great decision maker is being degraded. Not by your job, but by what happens after your job. It impairs memory consolidation, which is why you're becoming more forgetful. And you've been blaming it on age. It's not age, it's cortisol. It tanks your immune function, which is why you keep catching every cold that goes around the office. It disrupts your sleep architecture. Specifically, it suppresses your slow wave sleep, which is the phase where your brain clears metabolic waste and consolidates learning. So even when you're sleeping 7 or 8 hours, you're not recovering. You're just lying horizontal while your brain runs on a hamster wheel. So the bucket isn't just emptying from the top through normal daily use. It's leaking from the bottom. Cortisol is punching holes in the bucket every single night that you go to bed in a dysregulated state. And every morning you wake up with less capacity than the day before. Less patience, less creativity, less resilience, less of the thing that makes you, you at your best. And here's the part that gets me fired up. The part that makes me want to shake people by the shoulders. People invest thousands of dollars in productivity coaching. They invest in morning routines, the cold plunge, the journaling, the meditation app, the gratitude list. They invest in supplements, biohacking, nootropics, executive retreats. They hire personal trainers and nutritionists and sleep consultants, all of which is fine. I'm not knocking any of it. But they completely ignore the biggest performance drain in their life, an unregulated home. You're trying to fill a leaking bucket and wondering why you never feel full. You're pouring water in the top and watching it drain out the bottom. And instead of fixing the hole, you're buying a bigger hose. Your morning routine isn't the problem. Your home life is the problem. And until you address the cortisol environment you're maintaining for 8 hours every night, no amount of cold plunges will save you. I want to get specific about what this costs. Because stress is bad for you is something everyone has heard and nobody has internalized. So let me make it concrete. The success tax shows up in 4 categories, and I want you to audit yourself honestly as I go through these. Category 1, your health. Chronic relational stress, the kind that comes from living in a state of nervous system conflict with the person you share a bed with, is one of the strongest predictors we have for cardiovascular disease, stronger than smoking in some studies. Sustained elevated cortisol increases blood pressure, promotes arterial inflammation, disrupts cholesterol metabolism, and accelerates atherosclerosis. The heart attack at 54 that came out of nowhere? It didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of 15 years of Sunday night dread and Friday night detonations, and a nervous system that never got the signal that it was safe to rest. It's also linked to metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, chronic pain conditions, autoimmune flares, and gut disorders. Your body isn't designed to be in threat mode for 8 hours a day at the office and 8 hours a night at home. That's 16 hours of sympathetic activation with no recovery window. Something has to break, and it does. It breaks in your body. Category 2, your career. I know, this is the one you didn't see coming. You think your relationship and your career are separate buckets. They're not. They're the same bucket. When your prefrontal cortex is degraded from chronic cortisol, when you're walking into Monday morning already depleted from the weekend, you make worse decisions. Not catastrophically worse, subtly worse. The kind of worse that accumulates. You miss the nuance in a negotiation because your pattern recognition is foggy. You snap at a direct report because your emotional regulation is thin. You avoid the hard conversation with your board because you already had 3 hard conversations this week at home and you're tapped out. You choose the safe strategic play instead of the bold one because your risk tolerance has been eroded by a nervous system that's been in survival mode for so long that safe is all it has left. The promotion you didn't get, the ideas you didn't pitch, the creative breakthrough, because your brain is spending all its resources on threat management instead of innovation. That's the career tax. And it's invisible, which makes it the most dangerous kind. Category 3, your numbing habits. This is the one nobody wants to talk about, so let's talk about it. When your nervous system is chronically activated and you don't have somatic tools to downregulate, your body finds its own tools. And those tools almost always look like numbing. The extra glass of wine, or 3, that you need to take the edge off after a hard day. The scrolling until midnight because putting the phone down means being alone with the tension in your body. The spending, the eating, the binge watching, the low-grade marijuana habit that started as occasionally and has become nightly. The porn, the workaholism, staying at the office until 8 p.m., not because the work demands it, but because the office feels safer than your living room. None of these are moral failures. Every single one of them is a nervous system looking for a way to downregulate in the absence of co-regulation. Your body is desperate for a cortisol drop, and if it can't get it from safety and connection, it'll take it from dopamine and sedation instead. It's not ideal, but it's survival. And those numbing habits, they have their own tax. Financial, physical, relational. They create a secondary loop. You numb to cope with the dysregulation. The numbing creates more distance and more shame. The distance creates more dysregulation, and the cycle deepens. Category 4, your kids. And this is the one that stops my clients in their tracks. Children's nervous systems are shaped by the co-regulation environment of their home. Full stop. Your kids are not just observing your relationship. They're absorbing the neurological frequency of it. Their developing brains are calibrating their own threat detection systems based on what they sense between you and your partner. If the baseline frequency of your home is tension, vigilance, and unpredictability, If the kids have learned to scan the room when mom and dad are in the same space to figure out if it's a good night or a hard night, their nervous systems are being wired for hypervigilance, for anxiety, for the same survival archetypes that are running your relationship right now. The hypervigilant protector, the fawn responder, the shutdown partner. These aren't just your patterns, they're your legacy. Unless you break the cycle, they become your children's patterns. In their friendships, in their future relationships, in the families they build someday. That's the success tax. It's not just costing you sleep and peace and Saturday mornings. It's being inherited by the people you're working this hard to protect. Okay, I went heavy on that section and I did it on purpose. Because you needed to see the full invoice before I showed you the refund. Now let's flip this. Because the research on what happens when couples co-regulate, when the home becomes a sanctuary instead of a stressor, is extraordinary. And it's the part of the conversation that gives me hope for every single person listening. When your nervous system drops into what's called the ventral vagal safety, that's the state where you feel genuinely connected, genuinely at ease, genuinely home in the presence of another person. Your body does a complete chemistry change. It's not subtle, it's dramatic. Cortisol drops, measurably within minutes. Oxytocin rises, which doesn't just feel good. Oxytocin actively breaks down cortisol. It's a biological countermeasure. Your body literally has a built-in antidote to stress and is activated by safe human connection. Heart rate variability increases, and HRV is one of the single best biomarkers we have for longevity, cognitive resilience, and emotional flexibility. Higher HRV means a nervous system that can shift between states fluidly, from activation to calm, from focus to rest, without getting stuck. But it goes further. When two nervous systems co-regulate together, when you and your partner are both in that ventral vagal space at the same time, you get what I call the compounding effect. Think of it like compound interest, but for your biology. One night of genuine co-regulation, one evening where you actually feel safe and connected, improves that night's sleep. Better sleep means a fuller bucket the next morning. A fuller bucket means more patience at work, more creativity, more resilience. You come home the next evening with more capacity, which makes it easier to co-regulate again, which improves that night's sleep, which fills the next morning's bucket even more. Each night of safety builds on the last. Your baseline regulation gets higher. Your recovery from daily stress gets faster. The bucket stops leaking and starts filling. And over weeks and months, the change is not incremental, it's exponential because you're compounding. This is the ROI of co-regulation. And it's not woo-woo, it's not a vibe, it's measurable. It shows up in your blood work, lower inflammatory markers, improved lipid panels, better glucose regulation. It shows up in your sleep data, more time in deep sleep, fewer nighttime awakenings, higher sleep efficiency. It shows up in your productivity metrics, faster decision making, better creative output, higher tolerance for ambiguity and risk. And it shows up in your capacity for flow, that state of effortless high performance that every executive is chasing. And almost none of them can access it because their nervous system is too activated to let them drop in. I had a client, a senior VP at a tech company, runs a division of about 200 people. She came to me because her marriage was falling apart. She told me in our first session, I don't care about my career right now. I just need my home to stop feeling like a war zone. 6 weeks into the program, she sent me a message and said, Erica, I didn't come to you for my career, but my career is the thing that changed the most. Her team noticed the shift before she did. Her direct reports told her she seemed calmer and more present in meetings. Her creative output went up. She pitched 2 strategic initiatives she'd been sitting on for months because she finally had the cognitive bandwidth to develop them. Her sleep improved. Her anxiety decreased. She stopped needing the nightly wine to wind down because her body was getting its cortisol drop from connection instead of sedation. And here's the thing she told me that I'll never forget. She said, I thought I was coming to fix my marriage, but what I actually fixed was my operating system. And my marriage just started running better on the new OS. That's the ROI. That's what's on the other side of the leak. So let me ask you this, and I want you to actually calculate this, not just nod along. What would it be worth to you in real dollars, in real energy, in real quality of life to stop the leak? What would it be worth to walk through your front door and feel your shoulders drop instead of hike? What would it be worth to sleep next to someone and feel your nervous system settle instead of brace? What would it be worth to show up to work on Monday morning with a full bucket, genuinely full, not caffeine propped up full, for the first time in years? Put a number on that, because I promise you, the investment to fix it is a fraction of the cost of leaving it broken. Okay, so how do we start plugging the bucket? I'm going to give you 3 things you can implement this week. Tonight, actually. That began the process of turning your home from a drain into a battery. These aren't complicated. They're not time-consuming. They don't require your partner's cooperation or awareness. They only require you, your body, your breath, and your willingness to try something different for 7 days. Number 1 is the transition ritual. This is the most important thing I'm going to tell you today, and it's the one most people skip because it feels too simple. Your evening starts in the car, not in the kitchen, not at the dinner table, in the car. Before you walk through your front door, or before you close your laptop if you work from home, you're going to take 60 seconds to consciously shift states. Here's how. Place both hands on your thighs. Press down slightly. Feel the weight. Close your eyes if you can. And take 3 breaths with an extended exhale. Inhale for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 8. 4 in, 8 out. 3 rounds. That extended exhale is critical. It's not just deep breathing. The extended exhale specifically activates the parasympathetic branch of your nervous system through the vagus nerve. It's a manual gear shift from sympathetic, your work gear, to ventrovagal, your connection gear. While you breathe, you're going to say one thing intentionally. The mission is complete. I am entering the sanctuary. You're giving your nervous system an explicit signal, a boundary marker, between the world out there and the world in here. Without this signal, the worlds bleed together. Your body carries the office into the living room, and the living room never had a chance. 1 minute, 3 breaths. That's the ritual. Do it every single day this week and pay attention to what shifts in the first 10 minutes after you walk in. Number 2, the 6-second anchor. We talked about this on Sunday's video, but I'm going to go deeper here because I want you to understand why this works, not just how. When you see your partner, before you debrief, before you vent, before you check the mail or look at your phone, hold a full, grounded hug for 6 seconds. Chest to chest, feet on the floor, arms wrapped, and breathe into it. 6 seconds is the minimum threshold for oxytocin release. Anything less than 6 seconds and your brain registers it as a social gesture. Nice, but neurologically insignificant. At 6 seconds, something shifts. Oxytocin signal reaches a level where it actively begins breaking down cortisol in both bodies. You're not just connecting emotionally, you're initiating a chemical reaction that undoes the damage of the day. But I want to add something here that I didn't say on Sunday. The 6-second anchor isn't just about what it does to your chemistry. It's about what it communicates to your partner's neuroception, that below conscious safety scanner. When your partner's nervous system has been waiting for you all day, scanning the driveway, listening for the door, wondering what version of you is coming home tonight, and the first thing that happens is 6 seconds of grounded, unhurried, present physical contact, their system gets the one signal it's been starving for: safe. This person is safe. Tonight is safe. I can stand down. That signal changes the entire trajectory of the evening, not because of the hug itself, but because of what the hug prevents. It prevents the neuroceptive cascade that turns a normal Tuesday into a battlefield. It interrupts the pattern before it locks in. Number 3, the 9 p.m. shutdown. This one is going to be the hardest for some of you because it goes against everything you've been taught about resolving conflict before bed. And I need you to hear me out before you push back. Whatever happened today, the argument, the tension, the eye roll over dishes, the thing your partner said that's still sitting on your chest like a splinter, at 9 p.m., it's done. You're putting a temporal boundary around the conflict. Not because it doesn't matter, not because you're avoiding it, but because your nervous system needs a minimum of 2 hours of down regulation before sleep to actually enter the restorative stages that repair your prefrontal cortex. If you carry the fight to bed, if you're still processing, still stewing, still composing your closing argument at 11 p.m., you're punching more holes in tomorrow's bucket. Your slow wave sleep will be suppressed. Your cortisol will stay elevated through the night. And you'll wake up tomorrow with less capacity to handle the conversation that you were too depleted to handle tonight. So here's the protocol. At 9 p.m., you say to yourself or to your partner, I still care about this. We're going to come back to it. But right now, I'm choosing to protect our sleep and tomorrow's capacity. And then you shift. You do something that signals safety to both nervous systems. Watch something light. Read in the same room. Do the 6-second anchor again. Whatever brings the temperature down. The conversation can wait. Your biology cannot. Now I want to address the objection I know some of you are having. But Erica, if we don't resolve it, we'll just wake up and pretend it didn't happen and it'll fester. I hear you. And here's the truth. That's exactly what's been happening anyway. You've been having the same fight at 11 p.m. with a depleted brain, saying things you'll regret, resolving nothing, and waking up with more damage to repair. The 9 p.m. shutdown isn't about avoiding the conversation. It's about having it when your prefrontal cortex is actually online, which is the next morning after a real night's sleep when both of you have a full bucket. Unresolved conflict at 9 p.m. with 2 depleted brains is not a resolution. It's re-injury. Stop re-injuring yourself and calling it working on the relationship. Before I close, I want to speak directly to my single listeners because I know some of you have been listening to this thinking, this doesn't apply to me. I live alone. I don't have a partner to co-regulate with. But here's the thing. You still have a bucket and it can still leak. If you're single and your nervous system is calibrated for hypervigilance, if you grew up in a home where the vibe was unpredictable and you learned to scan every room you enter for a threat, that pattern doesn't stop just because you live alone. It follows you into your dating life. It follows you into your friendships. It follows you into your own relationship with yourself. The single person's leaky bucket looks like this. You come home from work depleted. There's no one to co-regulate with, so your nervous system stays activated. You numb with scrolling, with wine, with overwork. Your sleep suffers. You wake up depleted. You go to work depleted. You come home depleted. The cycle continues. And when you do go on a date, when you do meet someone who might actually be safe, your nervous system doesn't recognize safe. It recognizes familiar. And familiar for a lot of you is chaos. Is intensity, is the chemistry that's actually just 2 activated nervous systems recognizing each other's wounds. So you choose the person who triggers your survival archetype, and you bypass the person who might have been your sanctuary. Not because you're stupid or self-destructive, Because your neuroception is calibrated for danger, and danger is the only frequency it knows how to tune into. The transition ritual works for you. The 6-second anchor works for you with yourself. Hands on your chest, 6 seconds of grounded, present contact with your own body, telling your own nervous system, I am safe, I am home, I don't need someone else to prove that to me. That self-regulation isn't a consolation prize. It's the foundation. It's the thing that has to be in place before you can co-regulate with anyone else. You have to become your own sanctuary first, so that when the right person shows up, you recognize safety instead of running from it. Listen, I know some of you are hearing all of this and thinking, this is great, Erica. The metaphor makes sense. The science checks out, but my situation is deep. It's not a 6-second hug. It's not a transition ritual. It's years of buildup. It's patterns that are so ingrained they feel like personality traits. It's a leak that's been running so long I don't even know what a full bucket feels like anymore. I hear you, and that's exactly why the intensive exists. If your home life has become a drain instead of a battery, if you've been trying to fill a bucket for years while it leaks out the bottom, you need more than tips. You need more than a podcast episode, no matter how good it is. You need a full system reset. In the Stop the Death Spiral Intensive, we go deep into the biosanctuary protocol to identify exactly where your nervous system is getting hijacked. Your specific archetype, your specific triggers, your specific collision patterns between your survival system and your partner's survival system. And then we install the biological anchors that bring you back to safety. Fast, not in 6 months, in one intensive session. I have 5 seats open, just 5, because I'm still in the classroom during the week, and I protect the container by keeping it small. If you're a high achiever who's done paying the success tax, who's ready to stop pouring water into the leaking bucket and actually fix the holes, the link is in the show notes. Let's plug the leak. And if you're not sure where to start, if you want to understand which survival archetype is draining your bucket the fastest, take the Relationship Nervous System quiz. It takes 2 minutes. It's free. And it'll give you the language for the pattern that's been running your evenings, your weekends, your energy for longer than you realize. Link is also in the show notes. And as always, if this episode hit you somewhere, if it described your living room or your car or your Friday night with uncomfortable accuracy, share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. That text that says, hey, listen to this. It reminded me of us. Might be the bravest thing you do this week. That's how we get to 10,000 lives, one regulated nervous system at a time. I'll see you tomorrow for your Tuesday Raw Regulation Micro Practice. Bring your door frame. Breathe well.